Welcome. I'm Aurora Light. I'm here for another, episode, session, whatever this is, of the Evolve Alchemical Evolution Summit for beautiful soulpreneurs like Nina Infinity, my soul sister, collaborator, and co-creator. And also in the past, we've worked together as coach and client, and I have also worked for her business. We've co-created at retreats together, events together, and she was also part of the Evolve 90-day entrepreneurial accelerator that just happened. So I love your energy, Nina, and I'm so excited we get to have this conversation today.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. And I love how you, shared a little bit about our rich history of working together and playing together. It's been such an evolution in itself, our co-creative relationship. I love it.
Right? I started naming things. I'm like, oh, and there's this, and there's that, and there's that. So for anyone who doesn't know, I met Nina during our hoop dance decade that really was at least 10, 11 years ago at this point, where we were both playing so much with magical hula hoops. And she had an amazing business called Infinity Hoop Dance. And she has been an incredible success in that. But then there was this evolution. There was something more that her soul was calling her for. And she is now still in that evolutionary process. But she is working as an elemental priestess of light, as well as a breath of bliss facilitator, and just general all around inspiration to everybody that knows her. So we're going to talk about your journey, Nina.
Yes, awesome. So excited to share. It's been an involvement, as you mentioned, over the last several years of moving away from the career in hoop dance to what I'm becoming and birthing into now. And so it's been a time of deep reflection and like cocoon and like winter season. And it's beautiful to look back and reflect on the medicine that the journey's brought me, and then to share it, because as we can share about our journeys, I know people can often get a lot of medicine from that.
Exactly. And I think sharing our stories and our experiences not only can be educational for people, but it also allows them to tap into the wisdom that you hold in your field about what you've been through and what is possible. So there can be codes to be shared through that journey. And I really know that a lot of people, especially ones I've worked with, have gotten hung up on what they want to do because they feel like it has to be the one thing. And I think this goes back to people asking, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? As though it's some static thing that you will choose one, and then I guess this is 2 or 11. One that you will do forever. And I don't know many people where that is the case. And so I love sharing journeys of how we start where we're at, and then we allow it to evolve and grow and change and shift. And it's more of a journey than a destination.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because the thing that came up for me when you were sharing that is oftentimes too, we can tell ourselves the story that this is the one thing and this is the thing I'm going to do forever. That was what I was actually telling myself when I first started making the transition away from hoop dance. And it was because of an injury. Now I see it as my body being a sacred messenger, sharing with me that it was time to move on, even though it was a really painful journey of letting go, of grieving. But as I started to make that transition, I was thinking, like, I don't know what else to share. This is what I share. This is what I do. This has been my life for a decade. I literally thought to myself, I don't know if I have any other value beyond this. And what I realized is that hooping was just the vehicle. Hooping was just the mode by which I shared with people how to connect with themselves and how to connect with their bodies and with their soul, as well as connecting with the universe and spirit and also each other. So it's all like the overarching theme about what I love to do when I bring people together is connection on so many facets, on so many levels. But hooping was just one way to do that. And now I use other modalities like breathwork and ecstatic dance and meditation and co-creating ceremonies, to support people in connecting inwardly and with the earth and with spirit and with each other. So yeah, it's beautiful to like shift the lens of and to see it's not just about the one thing, but oftentimes there can be threads of like an overarching theme in those things, in those medicines.
Absolutely. I've been on a, similar journey with you, from being a like professional hula hoop teacher and being in that world of sharing embodiment through and connection to highest self in many of the ways that you do through our expression, and of course connection to all that is. And I found that while the vehicle might change from hula hoops to light language to our sacred ceremonies or one-on-one coaching or belief repatterning, it is the same essence, because it's your soul mission and soul expression that's coming through. But can I also say, and you've heard me say this before, but for people that are watching, it was such a weird experience for me and other people that Nina knew, for her to say, I don't know what else I have of value to share. Because we could see the infinite value that she brings and she holds, because she has so much wisdom and so much to share, but it was so innately just her that it didn't feel like something special to share. You know what I mean? Like, it just, you were like, but I'm just me. Like, but your you is so magical compared to what many people experience. And so this also just goes to show that we don't always necessarily notice our gifts or be able to see the forest for the trees when we are in the thick of these transition experiences, or when we're maybe in pain, which can really hinder our ability to use our intuition or even just raise our vibration to that place where we can see all of the opportunities.
Yeah, and it's for me, it was a journey of recognizing that, which was innate, like you shared, and also, yeah, realizing it wasn't what I was doing, it was how I was being. And that's so beautiful to see people out in the world, the way that they show up and the way that it trickles into their medicine in the unique way that they can share what they know versus, you know, yeah, I think we get sometimes attached to the doing and also like the vehicle. And it's so powerful to, yeah, come into, for me, it was about exploring and getting to know my essence more, because for so long I had attached to, this is what I do, this is my community, this is my relationships, this is my creative outlet, my career, my business, my da da da. Hooping was all of those things for me. And so when I came out of that, it was like, okay, well, what else do I like to do? What else do I enjoy? How else do I connect with people? And then it led me down this journey of actually learning how to connect more deeply with other people, because at so many festivals or events, I would just take my hoop and I would go hoop, and I would connect with people in that way by sharing with them that visual gift. But I would be like holding it a little bit as a security blanket. And so when I would go, to an event and then later on without my hoop, it was like, oh, I'm pushing my comfort zone. I'm visiting with people now more. And I'm also dropping the veil, or dropping like the mask, and the walls, because I was being more vulnerable about what my journey was and how it was a painful journey. And people were relating to that. So it was like bit by bit, I was able to like open up to more connection. And yeah, just over time was able to become more free in that. So I was attaching less to, this is the thing, and got to learn more about myself throughout that whole process. And now I'm able to kind of return back to sharing my medicine with all of the beautiful tools, all of the experiences that I've amassed, and also like the deepened connection to my own essence that I can then share, because I didn't recognize it before as much.
I love that journey. of having to take off the hula hoop, which was a really great security blanket. It could literally be your bubble on the dance floor where you did not have to interact or get close to people because you could just spend time hooping. And I certainly have had that experience as well. It's been a really amazing opportunity to witness you on this journey of self-discovery into just recognizing the magic that you do hold innately in you, but then also for you to step in more fully to training and then sharing the things, the other vehicles that are so potent and powerful. So do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the things that you have been offering, like the sacred ceremonies and the breath of bliss?
Yeah, absolutely. So Breath of Bliss is really interesting because my higher self told me before I left the world of hooping to go and do this training. And coincidentally, it was actually my hoop dance trainer who trained me to be a hoop dance teacher, who then trained me to be a breathwork teacher because that was her journey. And yeah, I just got the download, go and do this training. And so I did that a couple of years before, and didn't really do much with it, just kind of went back into the hooping world. But I had this little soul nudge, my soul was like, hey, like you're going to do something else. You're going to do something in the sacred world. And it was sort of like funny because I forgot about that when I was going through the dark night of the soul and the grieving, the letting go, moving away from it and the identity crisis. But then it was like an aha moment. It was like, yeah, go back and do the training again. And at that point, my teacher, Christabel Zamora is her name, creator of Breath of Bliss, she invited me to come and be an assistant. So I would assist the training. My goal was to reignite my passion for breathwork because it had been a couple years since I'd done the training or facilitated. And then it just was like a chain of events after that led me to creating ceremonies and bringing people together. Didn't realize it at the time, though. I realized it a couple years later that I was like, oh, duh. That's what I do. I bring people together for connection. That's the purpose. So it was neat to realize later on that was a little soul nudge years prior. So that's how I got to that place of really feeling the honor of holding space, bringing people together, as I mentioned, and also creating a space that is welcoming of all aspects of ourselves and the full spectrum of human emotion, because breathwork is a deeply heart-opening practice, and it also brings us into the body. So often in my life, I've been up in the head and the thinking mind, and I know a lot of us are, and these somatic experiences bring us into the body so we can really recognize what is it that I'm feeling in this moment. As well, the breath can actually help to move through the body and move memories and emotions that are in our cellular memory. Our body has its own consciousness, and it holds memories of times, or in our early lives, and also even lives before, past lives or generational. And so breath is a really powerful tool to bring us into the body, connect, help to clear and move any stagnant energy, any density emotions that are there, so that we can create more space, so we can open up space for more of our divine, self, our higher self, our wisdom to pour through. And something that I love so much about Breath of Bliss is it's a very holistic, well-rounded ceremony. So it incorporates movement and heart shares and practices where we all get to state our intentions and hold that frequency together. And breaking down some of the barriers of how we show up vulnerably in the world, because I always like to say in ceremony, we get to practice how we be in the world. And when we are given the opportunity to share in spaces that are welcoming and spaces that, we are creating a sanctuary of no judgment, then we get to practice opening our throat chakras. We get to practice being witnessed, being held by others, as well as doing that for others and learning as a participant to be present and hold space for those that are sharing. So it's this beautiful practicing, this this way of being in the world, and that's one of the things I love so much about ceremony.
I love that. And we've co-created ceremonies together, both in person, which is fabulous, but we also have come together along with Radiant Soul Nicole to create this kind of sacred space that we can reach a global community with and bring everything online. I mean, I could speak more into it, but this is about showcasing you. So, you want to share a little bit about how we can bring those magical elements of somatic experience and practices of being in the body, in alignment, connecting with higher self so that we can consciously create in the playground membership?
Yes, yeah, it's been such a joy over the last year. It's been almost a year now that the playground launched. I think it was in November. It's been such a joy to experience. First for me, it was about experiencing online ceremonies when everything started shut down about a year and a half ago, and really recognizing, wow, like there's really something here. Before, I had a little bit of resistance to the online because I was like, oh, you can't connect as deeply in person or as in person. But then once it was the option to, it was the way to connect at that moment in time last spring, I really appreciated having that freedom. And I tapped in. It's like, oh my gosh, we're not separate all over the world. We are together in that space, in that 0 point, in that moment. And it just shows you the power of consciousness. I'm getting like chills as I'm thinking of this, of all the souls coming together to hold intention together, to be in that deep practice. Like, we are in the body, but we can also go to those realms where we're all together in a soul space. And it was so powerful for me to experience these first through, Breath of Bliss with Christabel, ceremonies that she was facilitating, and then a couple of other ceremonies where, I actually, in my mind's eye, I was like, oh, I'm at a festival in a breathwork tent, and we're all doing breathwork together. Like, I was transported there. And then it was such an honor and such a joy to be invited to co-create with you and Nicole, where the co-creation power is so amazing. We're this kind of trifecta, the three of us, where we each bring our own different medicine, yet so complementary to these ceremonies. And we love to weave in different elements where we're breathing, we're sounding, using our voices, moving our bodies, going on soul journeys and exploring different themes. And yeah, so it's been amazing to be able to use the power of technology to weave all of our medicine together, but not only in one city where it's, you have to be location specific, but where everybody can join. And it's been, really special to be on this journey with you.
Yeah, it's so much fun because we do get to work in the 0 point. And as much as I love in-person things, there is this really cool ability for us to connect globally. And nothing is more exciting than when you log on and you've got people from Australia, New Zealand, from all over North America, some people from Europe or Asia, all at the same time. And it just makes me imagine the globe, not imagine, but like in my psychic senses, I see the globe and I see the light columns that are being anchored all over, and then that web that it creates, and it just brings it into the collective consciousness. And it's my favorite thing, right? We work so well together, I think, because we share that soul mission of connection and empowerment through these somatic movement practices, or through music, through voice, through these embodied experiences, so that people can really, I think, a really big part of it is like ground their amazing cosmic galactic soul energy into the earth and feel present here and actually enjoy being here, because that's not always common for a lot of magical beings that I know. Like you were saying, sometimes you would get stuck living in the headspace.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so amazing to visualize and just hold in the mind's eye all those columns that you were talking about, where we're anchoring the light, and that is so needed right now, where we're creating this web and we're raising the frequency not only in one city at one time but collectively. And I know there's so many groups that are doing this, like globally on the internet right now, like virtually, and it's so amazing. And like you said, this creating community for people who may not have the community in their city. They may not have those connections on a soul, those soul connections in their lives yet. Some people feel so lonely when they don't have those relationships. And I definitely did at one point as well, where I know there's more. I know there's another depth that I'm craving, but I didn't know what that looked like, and I didn't know who I could connect with on that level. Fortunately, my mom was really spiritual, so growing up, so I felt that with her, but on a larger scale. I craved that for a number of years in my life, and so it feels really important to create opportunities for people to connect. My mom actually too, when she was growing up, when she was in her 20s, she was a seeker, and she tells me times of she didn't have ways to connect, and the internet was not a thing yet. So how cool it is that we get to use this technology to connect in this global way and create opportunities for people to connect on a soul level if they don't have that in their lives, their everyday lives yet.
Yeah, exactly. I think that story is a tale as old as time, especially the change makers, the people that are here to push boundaries and to be the people that are going to really shift humanity forward. We can often feel like black sheep or psychedelic sheep or really isolated and alone. And I know I felt that growing up very much, where I didn't have people in my immediate vicinity that I really connected with on the soul level. I started to find them in festival communities, in hula hooping, in the belief repatterning community, which Nina has also been a part of. We just spoke with Ashley earlier today. And now, in the Radiant Evolution community. But I want to just speak to remind you of something that you actually helped me create consciously when it comes to connection that I'm not sure if you would remember. But it must have been about 2017-ish. You held a full moon ceremony in your house, and it was right at the beginning of the year in January. And it was the sacred circle, this connection of community, and you had us set intentions. And I remember my intention for that year was connection, because I had just had a child recently. She was about 9 months old, and that is freaking isolating. It felt quite lonely, and I had a lot of friends, but I was also craving that deeper level, that next level of connection. And it was really magical, because through that space, that container that you held so beautifully, I met a few people there, but really life snowballed into creating the opportunities for me, because I said yes to them for those deeper connections. We even deepened our connection, you, Nicole, and I, and you led me to the belief repatterning community and so many other beautiful friendships. So the power of sacred ceremony and connection has affected my life so profoundly.
Oh, I love to hear that. And I remember that one very clearly. We were in the backyard, I think.
It was January.
Were we burning things in the backyard?
Oh, maybe we went out, yeah, to burn.
I remember a picture. I think Baxter was there. Cool.
In January?
Maybe not.
Maybe. That might be a different one.
In my mind, I'm seeing this picture of a group of us, and it was a lot of flomies, so maybe he wasn't there. But
there was more snow.
That's true. I don't know if he would come here during the winter. But that's a beautiful memory, and just very affirming of the power of intuition, or intuition, yes, intention is what I meant to say, and really planting those seeds. We talk about that so much in ceremony. That's another reason why it's so amazing to come into ceremony. Sure, we can be setting intentions on our own. We can set intentions for the day, for the week, for the month. We can be in that kind of like, planting seeds mode on our own, but it's so much more powerful when we come together and we do it in ceremony with this ritual, and we create time for that. And just looking at, indigenous cultures around the world, they all have their own ritual to come into like a sacred pause, to do things with intention, with slowness, to sit, to receive the medicine. And in this day and age when our lives are so busy and there's so much going on, it is such a gift to create that time and space for ourselves, and as a facilitator for me to bring people together to do that. And then of course, as we gather and we set our intentions together, that's amplified just by gathering, just by coming together. It's like, it just amplifies even more. So I love to hear that about your intention of connection back then. And it's really cool to look back and see all the different ways that our lives have interwoven and the different co-creations that have taken place.
Yes. And Nicole is saying, yeah, there was another time. She's remembering as well. And this is the thing. We've done so many ceremonies together, but I think the thing we sometimes forget, because we innately know how powerful ceremony is and why we want to do it, for all of the reasons. But one of the main reasons that has been coming through, to expand on what we've been speaking about, is that conscious creation aspect, where we can really bring our intentions into this sacred space, and from that place be the co-creator of the experience of our reality, right? By directing our intention, our attention, our focus, and then bringing it into our body and then out into form. So I'm wondering what words you maybe have, related to ceremony or not, about that process of conscious creation and cultivation of your life in a direction that feels good and exciting for you.
Well, first of all, I want to just mention what you said about like embodying through movement, through sound. I love that your original business name was Dancing into Being, and there's just so many layers to that, and layers and meanings to it. And so cool that your path has taken you towards conscious creators. Like, of course, it's such a beautiful way that things have unfolded for you, just like Infinity Hoop Dance turned into Nina Infinity, which now has so much more meaning to it in this form that I'm in now, in this direction that my business is taking me. And something that I've been coming to me a lot lately is toning, like just humming at a particular tone, like anytime during the day. I was doing like some kayaking and some Kundalini yoga while I was camping out on the weekend. And there'd be times where I just felt like I was wanting to release a tone. What was coming to me is that in some moments, it's to like amplify the feeling that I'm feeling. Like if it feels really fun and I'm in nature and it feels wonderful, or I just finished a practice like Kundalini and I just like, oh, this is so juicy. I want to amplify it and I want to anchor it and I want to like blast it out into my and radiate it out into my frequency and my aura and my energy bubble. Then I'll feel like, oh, I want to tone. And then sometimes it's also to clear and like, oh, there's something that's stagnant right now and it's asking to be cleared, just the same way we might wash our hands to clean our hands, like a tone, and just like feeling that resonate out and clear and cleanse and wash away. So I don't know if this answered your question, but that was one that dropped in when you asked, because I guess you were talking about creation and intentions. And so that in itself can be, okay, I set the intention for this tone to help it clear, or I set this intention to help it amplify, because it's not only about what can I get rid of? It's like, what am I welcoming in? What am I filling myself with? And I actually just thought about that when I was going to the chiropractor just now. I realized oftentimes, it's probably pretty typical for us to walk into a chiropractor or a doctor's office or so on and so forth and just say like, this is what's wrong. But I was like, what would the world look like? And I know that you would love this because belief repatterning is all about celebrating. I was like, what would the world look like if we started off every appointment or connection or interaction with, this is what's going well, one thing, drop it in. Like that starts it on a very high note. And then it's like, okay, let's celebrate that. Let's come into that energy. And I love how you do that at the beginning of so many ceremonies and so many sessions that you do in the one-on-one coaching that I've done with you. Is like, celebrate it first, raise the vibration, and then move into what you're wanting to shift. What's the challenge or the opportunity from there, from that frequency? And I was like, what would it be like if we did that in doctors' offices and chiropractors and like, this is going well, great. And then how can I support you? Just like a cool thought that I had about amplifying the good, and that creates the neural pathways in our brains, and it programs our reticular activator, which is the filter in the brain that tells us to focus on something particular. And it's like, oh, focus on that. Oh, more of that, please. More, please. And it just amplifies and is an upward spiral from there.
I love that this is the second time in 2 hours someone has been talking about the reticular activator today. It's so powerful because that is, to me, the crux of conscious creation, is what we focus on expands. And so we get to do that choice. What is it that we're focusing on? Is it the problems, the pain, all of that? Or is it, which needs to be honored. I'm not saying we do not need to go deep in, and that's a really powerful part, but also to focus on what we do want so we can build on it, so we can create more of it, so we can bring that into our focus. And if you're not sure, we can look to the ick, right? We can look to what is not working well, be like, okay, what do I want instead? Right? And then we can transform it, alchemize it, transmute it into the very thing that is going to direct us or give us the energy towards what it is that we would prefer. So, I love that alchemical transformative journey. It's my jam, and I know it's yours as well, to be able to transmute the density into something that fuels us, and then we can support others with those healing codes, with that energy.
Yeah, and focusing on what's going well, not only focusing on what can be improved, because that's obviously you need to know in order to improve it, to change it, to shift it, to transform it, but to also like what's going well right now, because there's a whole lot going on. Like my heart's beating, oxygen rich blood throughout my whole body, my lungs are filling with oxygen, like my eyes are taking in the light and the colors and all around me, and so much is going on. Like that's all going well. Even when my body was in a lot of pain, it's recently shifted and I'm so much more able to do what I wasn't able to do before. I'm able to hoop again. I'm able to use my body and be free and mobile and dance and do all the things. But at one point when I was in a lot of pain, that was something that I often brought myself to. It was like, okay, my body is doing all of these things for me, even though I can't do the certain things right now. Wow, my body is so intelligent. Thank you, body, for this infinite intelligence. And focusing on what's going well. That's such a key piece. And it also supports us in, if we're focusing on what we are doing well in the world, and giving ourselves a pat on the back and recognizing our accomplishments and our wins, it also tells our subconscious mind to keep doing those things because we're getting praise for it. Our subconscious mind is wired to please. So at one point in my life, I kind of had a habit, because it was kind of what was shown to me as a young child, was like focusing on what am I not doing well, and how, and then feeling crappy about that, like, oh, I'm not doing this, oh, I'm not doing that, oh, I feel so shitty about myself. Well, is my subconscious mind going to want to keep, like, am I priming it to please me when I'm criticizing it. No, if I turn around, oh, what am I doing well? Like sometimes it's, sometimes in the past, it's like past few years when it's been a really difficult journey for me, it's like, oh, I got out of bed and I took a shower. Good for me. Like focusing on those accomplishments, and then more and more and more and more. And again, it's the upward spiral, but recognizing what we are doing well and what's going well can really be that, it can create that like fertile soil for more intentions to bloom and flourish. It's working with the energies.
Yes. I think it can be very easy for us to say that because we have had the direct experiences of how that supports us. I just want to be clear that if you're not able to do it, please, right now, if you're feeling a lot of pain, depression, illness, things are going poorly, I mean, this kind of shift in the mentality, this kind of transformation takes practice, right? This did not come, it actually comes really naturally to me. That's one of my superpowers, and I annoy people with it. But what would you give as advice to someone who really is in that space that you were in a few years ago about where to start? Because it can feel overwhelming.
Yes, I agree. It can feel really overwhelming and heavy to be in the space of like, where do I begin? Because there's so much to do or to shift or to transform, and it feels heavy. Just feel into that. What I was just alluding to, actually, I'll just expand on that, is that recognition of like what's going well. And it can be in the form of a list. But in belief repatterning, we were taught this like template of accomplishments sheet where you can talk about like, what did you accomplish today, this week, this month, this year, lifetime. Was there another one? There was 6, but yeah, you can think about like, what have you accomplished throughout these different time frames? Because maybe in this moment it's like, oh my God, I haven't done anything, I haven't accomplished anything, like blah, like all of this density. But then when we look back, we're kind of we're essentially creating an evidence file where we're able to see like, oh, I don't suck because I did this thing a year ago. And on my list, like I guarantee you I was making a lot of these accomplishments lists when I was going through this dark night of the soul, and I was starting to learn these tools of how to acknowledge myself. Because previously I was previously I was always looking to other people to give me the acknowledgement and the praise. That was, was searching externally, and I was getting it in some ways. But then once hooping wasn't my identity anymore, it was like, oh, well, that's how I got approval from people. That's how I felt that I was enough. Now I don't have that anymore. Okay, what is this pointing me towards? It's pointing me towards feeling myself up first and showing myself like, okay, I am enough. And I could look back and see that I had, even though it was painful to think about, I could still acknowledge that I had created this beautiful business and the impact that it created in this ripple of like people experiencing transformation and beautiful, people would create beautiful friendships in classes, or people would be inspired to do something creative in their lives. Like it would build. And so I was able to honor, at one point I was able to honor like, oh, I did create that, that's an accomplishment for my lifetime or for the last couple of years. I did do that. And then, like I said, it can be really small. It can be like, I went for a walk, I brushed my teeth, I made myself a healthy meal. It can be big accomplishments from the past. It can be small accomplishments from that day or that week, because anything and everything is, when you do it for you and you recognize yourself, that's when it can be the most, that's when it can really start to like snowball, I guess, as we start to notice, I did this thing, I did that thing, more and more and more we're building that evidence file, and it snowballs into feeling a little bit better and feeling a little bit better about ourselves bit by bit. Yeah.
I love that. The snowball analogy is similar to me as the upward spiral that we so often describe. It's like making even just a micro movement forward or upwards or into a place of more love, more understanding, more grace, more compassion really helps. And I know that for me, I don't get as much done when I'm doing it alone, right? So that's the other reason that the community connections and learning from each other is so important. So as we wrap up here, I would love for you to maybe speak an invitation if people are wanting to connect more with you, how they can do that, including with the playground where they can join us in community and not have to do it all alone.
Yes, it's so important to have that community, that connection. For so long, I did try to do it alone, and reaching out for support and allowing myself to receive that support was so impactful. And yeah, so if you're watching and you're feeling like you want some more community, some more support, we would love to invite you to come and play with us in the playground. And we do monthly ceremonies as well as many other different live practices. This month, our theme is intuition, and I'm doing a guided movement practice near the end of the month. And so many other beautiful goodies, and it's all available in the portal. All the replays and recordings are available. And I noticed Aurora just dropped the link in the convo, so check that out. And if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I'm Nina_infinity_, and I mostly hang out there. I'm on Facebook a little bit as well, and definitely in the Radiant Evolution Collective group, which is where you're watching, so you're in the right place. Also, if you come and join us in the playground, we've got a Facebook group for that, and we're going to be doing some really fun stuff in August. We're going to be doing some intuition games and some other things that you can participate in, and just kind of like, deepen your intuition.
It is so much fun talking to you and co-creating with you, and it's always delightful to hear more about your journey, because you're always weaving in these wisdom bombs, truth bombs, just the codes of what it looks like to evolve and transform and grow. And really, I'm getting this image of like a snake shedding their skin, right? Like sometimes the old, even though it's beautiful and it's comfortable and it's what you wanted, needs to move because it's too small, it's too constraining for us. And witnessing you step into this, I want to say, more expansive expression of yourself has been such a gift and such a joy. Is there anything that is on your heart to share before we close that you would like to bring to this community and the people watching?
I'm just getting this word about, related to what you were just sharing about shedding the skin, like surrender, because when I was going through all of that changing and shifting, and I kind of feel like I went through a lot of that dark night of the soul energy prior to all of this happening collectively, so that I can help to anchor that, because I have that understanding. Surrender, like just allowing the transformation to take place, because the pain is, that's a sensation, that's an emotion, honoring that, feeling it, but fighting the change can be what creates more pain or suffering. And learning how to surrender. Like yesterday, I was walking out in the river valley. It was beautiful, and I could see the storm was brewing out in the distance, and the beautiful lightning and pink clouds because it was close to sunset. And then all of a sudden, it completely started to pour, and I was enjoying being out in the rain, but also it was like, oh, I'm getting pretty soaked, and like I keep having to wipe water out of my eyes, and I felt like I was like trying to trudge home and on the path, and then I was like, you can just surrender, just like, I'm gonna get soaked either way. Let's just like let it happen. And that like yielding to what is can be so powerful, so that I'm not creating more stress for myself by resisting it. So that's the medicine that's coming through in the moment. It's just surrender, honor where you're at, breathe, connect with community, like-minded, like-spirited people. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah, accepting what is. And to me, that also is just a key to finish off on. That acceptance, that surrender, that letting go is the opposite of fighting, resistance. And that's actually when we are the most able to connect with our intuition, with our higher self, with other people, when we're in that relaxed nervous system state instead of fight or flight. And that's something that these somatic practices and ceremonies really support with as well. Creating that safer, calmer, relaxed nervous system and space for us to explore what is. And when you do that, then your ability to see what actually is heightened. And then you're like, oh my gosh, everything is actually magical.
Mm-hmm. The truth is what was coming to me earlier, so I'm going to drop that in.
Yes.
With an intention.
Exactly. So beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Hi, Erin, who just joined the playground. I'm so excited for you to explore it as well. We will see you in there. And if anyone else is craving that sacred connection and does better when there is someone holding space for you, because I know I do, to do these things, the pokes, the prods, the events that you want to show up for the community, then come and join us. Nina, it's always a delight. Thank you so much for chatting with me. And if you enjoyed hearing Nina and I speak, this actually happens fairly regularly with Nina and Nicole Rose. We have illumination chats on Mondays, which is so much fun. And tomorrow I'll be back speaking with Genevieve McLeod at noon Mountain Time, and also at 2 o'clock with Shannon Abel. So we'll talk about more chemical evolution and transformation on that soulpreneur journey. Until then, have yourself a beautiful day, and we'll connect in soon.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Blessings.